What's up guys, it's Chris Majestic. So you might remember about 2 months ago I reviewed the Google Pixel 4a. Well, today I have with me the Google Pixel 5. So I want to personally thank Google for sending this out for me to give you my honest opinion on it. So not only did they send out a Pixel 5, but they also included a set of Pixel Buds and even a case for the phone. Now, I do have to admit that I haven't actually heard the Pixel Buds before, so this will be interesting. So before I give you my opinion, I want to test them out for a few days and report back what I think about them. So this is going to be Google's flagship phone, and it looks like they took a different approach this time around. Even though it is technically their flagship phone, they seem to trim a little bit of things out of it to try to keep the price down. So the Google Pixel 5 is actually priced at $699. And when you consider the fact that all the other flagships from companies like Samsung and OnePlus and Apple are pricing their phones way over $1,000, it's refreshing to see a price tag of $699 for the Pixel 5. So it's made out of what Google calls 100% recycled aluminum. So even though it kind of looks like plastic, it does have sort of an aluminum feel to it, which gives you somewhat of a toss in between a plastic phone and a metal phone. What I do like about this design is that people have a tendency to complain about glass phones having fingerprints. So I've actually went out of my way to try to get my fingerprints to show up on this phone, and I can't do it. So if you're one of those people who likes to complain about fingerprints on the back of a glass phone, then this is definitely an alternative for you. So in the phone box, you're gonna get some documentation and of course your SIM tool. And of course, you're gonna have your included USB Type-C power cord, as well as the 18-watt charger and what they call the quick switch adapter, also known as a USB Type-C to Type-A adapter. So the phone comes in two colors. It comes in just black or sort of sage. So in the middle of the phone, you're gonna find one of my favorite features, which is the fingerprint scanner. Now, as I said in previous videos, this is one of my favorite things because a lot of phones have gotten rid of this. I don't know why most companies don't go back to this. I think having a fingerprint scanner right in the middle of the back of the phone is a nice place for you to naturally rest your finger. So when you're pulling the phone out of your pocket, you already have the phone screen on. You don't have to worry about Face ID. You don't have to try to find where the fingerprint scanner is and built into the screen and all that crazy stuff. This is just a nice and simple thing that works every single time. Now, what I do find interesting is that both the Pixel 4a and the Pixel 4a 5G both have a headphone jack. Well, you're not gonna find a headphone jack on the Pixel 5. Now, of course, this isn't really a big deal because a lot of people have come to expect this now with flagship phones, but it is something that should be mentioned. So this phone does have IP68 water resistance, which is really good, which kind of goes back to my saying that they want to put some of the essential things that most people want in a phone and just leave out some of the features you may not use. So that means you're not going to find some of those crazy features like you found on the 4, including the squeeze feature for the Google Assistant. Now, I did find some of that stuff kind of interesting, but it's not really something that most people care that much about. And if it's going to keep the price of the phone down, then I do think that that's a good idea. All right, so what about the screen? Well, the screen is one of the highlights of this phone. So it has a 6-inch Full HD OLED display that has a 90 Hz refresh rate. And as you can see, they did opt for the small hole punch for the camera in the upper left-hand corner, which is way better than a huge notch. And what makes the screen on this phone look so good is the fact that it has a nice even bezel all the way around the edges of the phone. Now, even though I would have liked to see a 1440 display or 120 Hertz, considering the price tag of $699, it's kind of hard to complain. All right, so now on to the main feature of any Pixel phone, which is the camera. So on the back of this phone, you're gonna find a 12 megapixel dual focus camera and a 16 megapixel ultra wide camera. And on the front, you're gonna get an 8 megapixel front facing camera. And the cameras are capable of 4K video at 60 frames per second. Now, one thing that always bothered me about the Pixel 4 was the fact that it didn't have an ultra-wide camera. So it's good to see that Google is listening because a lot of people, including myself, had a problem with them not including the ultra-wide camera. So you're gonna have nice and sharp, natural-looking images coming out of this thing, and this is also gonna include night mode, which is a fantastic feature. So with this phone being priced more like a mid-level phone, what do the specs look like? Well, it's gonna come with the Snapdragon 765G. Now, I know a lot of people were wanting to see something like an 865 Plus or some other more powerful processor, but I do think this was an attempt for them to keep the price down. Now, it does come with 8 gigabytes of RAM, which is nice to see, as well as 128 gigabytes of onboard storage. You're gonna get wireless charging and reverse wireless charging. So that means you can actually take the Pixel Buds or another phone and charge it with this phone. Now, of course, the 765G isn't the most powerful processor in the world, but I am curious to know how it affects battery life considering it might use less energy. So I'm gonna be using this phone for a little while and then I'm gonna give you my thoughts later on how I feel about it. So with the release of the Pixel 5, that means Google now has 3 phones. So they have the Pixel 5, the Pixel 4a, and the Pixel 4a 5G. So as you can see with the Pixel 5, you're gonna get a bigger battery, the 90 Hz display, the Snapdragon 765, 8 GB of RAM, and IP68 water resistance. So I think the route Google took here is interesting. So pricing the phone at $699 and taking out some of the crazy features might actually be a good idea. When you consider the fact that something like my Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra cost me $1,600, this phone costs less than half of that. Even if you got the $1,300 or $1,400 version, it's still gonna be half the price. And there's a lot of features that this phone has that you're probably not gonna use. So I'm gonna be taking the SIM card out of my S20 Ultra and putting it into the Pixel 5, and then I'll report back in a few weeks and give you my thoughts on it. But that's gonna pretty much do it for this video, guys. If you found it helpful, go ahead and make sure you mash that like button for me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification so you don't miss anything. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.